People often misunderstand detachment. They think it means giving up. They think it means becoming cold, distant, or uncaring. But the truth is something entirely different. Detachment is not the absence of love. It is the presence of self-respect. It is the moment a woman realizes that protecting her peace is not selfish. It is necessary. Many women are taught to endure. They are taught to keep giving even when nothing is returned. They are taught to stay patient when they are overlooked, stay silent when they are hurt, and stay available when they are taken for granted. Over time, this creates a dangerous belief that their value comes from how much they can sacrifice. But strength was never meant to be measured by how much pain a person can tolerate. The strongest women understand something that changes everything. They understand that love without respect becomes a burden. Commitment without appreciation becomes exhaustion. Loyalty without reciprocity becomes self-neglect. And when these patterns continue, there comes a moment when a decision must be made. A woman who detaches gracefully does not wake up one morning and stop caring. The decision comes after countless attempts to communicate, countless efforts to understand, and countless chances given to people who failed to recognize her worth. Detachment is rarely an impulsive choice. It is often the final act of wisdom after every other option has been explored. Studies on emotional well-being consistently show that people who maintain healthy personal boundaries experience greater life satisfaction, stronger self-esteem, and lower levels of emotional distress. The reason is simple. Boundaries protect energy. Boundaries protect identity. Boundaries remind people that their value is not determined by how much they are willing to lose for someone else. When a woman finally chooses herself, something remarkable happens. She stops seeking validation from people who never intended to give it. She stops explaining her value to those determined to misunderstand it. She stops carrying responsibilities that were never hers to carry. Instead, she redirects that energy toward growth, purpose, and self-discovery. There is power in knowing when to stay, but there is also power in knowing when to leave. The world celebrates perseverance, and rightly so. Yet perseverance without wisdom can become self-destruction. Continuing to invest in situations that consistently diminish your spirit is not courage. Courage is recognizing when your presence is no longer being honored and having the confidence to walk away. The beauty of graceful detachment is that it requires no revenge. It requires no dramatic exit. It requires no bitterness. A truly strong woman understands that peace is more valuable than proving a point. She does not spend her future fighting battles from her past. She releases what no longer aligns with her values and continues moving forward. The most powerful transformation begins when a woman realizes that she does not need permission to choose herself. She does not need approval to protect her heart. She does not need validation to honor her worth. The moment she understands this, she becomes free from the opinions, expectations, and limitations that once controlled her decisions. Detachment is not weakness. It is the courage to value yourself enough to leave what continuously diminishes you. It is the discipline to choose peace over chaos, growth over stagnation, and self-respect over approval. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that your worth remains intact, regardless of who recognizes it. There comes a moment in every strong woman's life when she realizes that not everything she wants is meant for her, and more importantly, not everything that leaves her life is a loss. This realization changes everything. It shifts her focus from chasing to becoming, from seeking approval to building purpose, from running after opportunities to creating them. For years, many women are conditioned to believe that success comes from pursuing. Pursue acceptance, pursue validation, pursue attention, pursue relationships that may never fully value them. The message is clear. If you want something badly enough, keep chasing it. But wisdom teaches a different lesson. Not everything that requires effort deserves your energy. Not every door that remains closed is meant to be opened. A woman who understands her worth begins to recognize the difference between commitment and desperation. Commitment is investing in something that grows with you. Desperation is continuously investing in something that constantly drains you. One creates progress. The other creates exhaustion. Research on human behavior consistently shows that people often place greater value on things they struggle to obtain. The harder something feels to reach, the more important it appears. But difficulty alone does not determine value. Sometimes the struggle is not a sign to push harder. Sometimes it is information. Sometimes it is revealing that a path no longer aligns with who you are becoming. The strongest women learn to pay attention to these signals. They stop interpreting every rejection as a challenge to prove themselves. They stop seeing every closed door as an invitation to force their way through. Instead, they ask a different question. Does this opportunity align with my purpose? Does this relationship honor my values? Does this pursuit bring growth, or does it only feed my need for validation? This shift is powerful because it changes where energy is invested. Instead of spending countless hours convincing others of their value, they invest in developing their skills. Instead of waiting for recognition, they focus on creating excellence. Instead of chasing people who offer inconsistent attention, they build relationships rooted in mutual respect. The irony is that the moment a woman stops chasing everything, she often attracts better opportunities. Confidence has a magnetic quality. Purpose has a magnetic quality. People are naturally drawn to individuals who know where they are going and why they are going there. Consider the woman who spends years trying to fit into spaces where she is merely tolerated. She adjusts her personality. She minimizes her voice. She sacrifices parts of herself hoping to be accepted. Then one day she stops. She chooses authenticity over approval. She chooses self-respect over acceptance. Suddenly she discovers environments where she does not have to earn belonging because she already belongs. This is the hidden strength behind letting go of what is not meant for you. It creates space. Space for better relationships. Space for greater opportunities. Space for deeper self-discovery. Space for purpose to emerge without distraction. A woman who stops chasing does not stop caring. She does not stop dreaming. She does not stop working toward meaningful goals. What changes is the source of her motivation. She is no longer driven by fear of missing out, fear of rejection, or fear of being alone. She is driven by vision. She is driven by growth. She is driven by the desire to become the best version of herself. There is freedom in understanding that your value does not increase because someone finally notices you. Your value already exists. There is peace in knowing that opportunities aligned with your purpose do not require you to betray yourself to obtain them. There is strength in walking away from pursuits that demand constant sacrifice while offering little in return. The woman who stops chasing what is not meant for her discovers something extraordinary. The energy she once spent pursuing validation becomes fuel for building a life that reflects her true worth. True power is often misunderstood. Many people think power is the ability to dominate a conversation, win an argument, or make others submit to their will. They believe strength is loud, visible, and impossible to ignore. But the most powerful women understand a different truth. Real power is not found in controlling others. It is found in controlling yourself. Anyone can react when emotions take over. Anyone can allow anger to dictate words, frustration to dictate actions, and disappointment to dictate decisions. There is nothing extraordinary about reacting. What is extraordinary is remaining composed when circumstances invite chaos. What is extraordinary is choosing wisdom when emotions demand impulsiveness. A woman who masters emotional control possesses a strength that cannot be easily shaken. She understands that emotions are valuable indicators, but they are poor decision makers. Feelings provide information, but they should never be allowed to take command of a person's life. This understanding separates temporary reactions from lasting leadership. Research in psychology has consistently demonstrated that individuals with higher emotional intelligence tend to build stronger relationships, make better decisions, and experience greater long-term success. The reason is simple. They are able to recognize emotions without becoming prisoners to them. They acknowledge what they feel while maintaining control over how they respond. Consider what happens during moments of conflict. Most people become consumed by the desire to defend themselves, prove themselves, or retaliate against perceived disrespect. Their focus shifts from solving problems to winning battles. In these moments, emotions become the driver and wisdom becomes the passenger. A woman with emotional discipline operates differently. She understands that not every criticism deserves a response. Not every disagreement deserves an argument. Not every challenge deserves her energy. She carefully evaluates situations before reacting. She creates space between feeling and action. In that space, clarity emerges. This does not mean she lacks passion. It does not mean she ignores pain. It does not mean she suppresses her emotions. Emotional control is not emotional absence. It is emotional leadership. She allows herself to experience disappointment without letting disappointment define her. She allows herself to feel hurt without allowing hurt to control her future. She allows herself to experience anger without becoming consumed by it. One of the greatest advantages of emotional control is perspective. When emotions dominate, vision narrows, problems appear larger, threats appear greater, opportunities become harder to recognize. A calm mind sees what an emotional mind often misses. It identifies solutions where others see obstacles. It recognizes possibilities where others see limitations. Many people spend years attempting to control external circumstances. They try to control how others behave, what others think, and how others respond. This pursuit is exhausting because most of it lies beyond their influence. Powerful women focus on something far more productive. They focus on controlling what belongs to them, their mindset, their actions, their character, and their responses. The ability to remain calm under pressure creates a unique form of confidence. It is not confidence based on perfect circumstances. It is confidence based on inner stability. A woman who trusts her ability to handle challenges does not panic when difficulties arise. She understands that circumstances may change, but her principles remain constant. People naturally respect individuals who demonstrate emotional maturity. They trust those who remain steady during uncertainty. They follow those who can think clearly when others become overwhelmed. Emotional control creates influence because it communicates reliability, wisdom, and strength. Every challenge presents two opportunities. One opportunity is to react emotionally and surrender control. The other is to respond intentionally and strengthen character. The woman who consistently chooses intentional responses develops a level of personal power that cannot be taken away by criticism, rejection, setbacks, or adversity. Her greatest strength is not found in controlling the world around her. It is found in mastering the world within her. One of the most difficult lessons a woman will ever learn is that growth often begins with letting go. Most people assume progress comes from adding more opportunities, more relationships, more achievements, more commitments. But life teaches a different lesson. Sometimes growth is not about what you gain. Sometimes it is about what you release. A woman cannot move confidently into her future while carrying the weight of everything from her past. She cannot fully embrace new possibilities while holding tightly to old disappointments. She cannot discover who she is becoming if she remains attached to everything she once was. Many people stay connected to things long after they have stopped serving them. They hold on to relationships that drain their energy. They hold on to mistakes that continue to define their confidence. They hold on to fears that limit their potential. They hold on to versions of themselves that no longer reflect their values or aspirations. The challenge is that familiarity feels comfortable, even when it creates pain. Human beings naturally seek certainty. The known often feels safer than the unknown. This is why so many people remain in situations that no longer support their growth. They choose predictable discomfort over uncertain possibility. Research in behavioral psychology has repeatedly shown that people tend to fear loss more intensely than they value potential gain. As a result, they often cling to circumstances that limit them because the idea of letting go feels risky. Yet almost every meaningful transformation requires stepping away from something familiar in order to create space for something better. A woman who understands this principle begins to see letting go differently. She no longer views it as failure. She no longer interprets it as weakness. She recognizes it as an act of courage. She understands that every meaningful chapter in life requires the willingness to close a previous one. Think about a garden. Growth cannot occur when dead branches continue consuming resources. New life requires space, sunlight, and nourishment. The same principle applies to personal development. If energy remains invested in resentment, regret, unhealthy attachments, or limiting beliefs, there is little room left for growth. The strongest women understand that letting go is not about forgetting. It is about releasing the emotional grip that keeps the past connected to the present. They learn from experiences without allowing those experiences to imprison them. They acknowledge lessons without carrying unnecessary burdens. There is a unique strength that emerges when a woman stops fighting reality. Instead of wishing people would change, she accepts who they are. Instead of wishing circumstances had been different, she accepts what happened. Instead of resisting endings, she recognizes that endings often create beginnings. This acceptance creates freedom. It frees mental energy previously consumed by frustration. It frees emotional energy previously consumed by disappointment. It frees attention previously consumed by what can no longer be changed. That energy can now be redirected toward growth, purpose, creativity, and possibility. Every season of life demands something different. There are seasons for learning, seasons for building, seasons for healing, seasons for leading. Problems arise when people try to remain in seasons that have already ended. Growth requires movement. It requires adaptation. It requires the courage to release what no longer aligns with the direction of your life. A woman committed to personal growth understands that every decision to let go is ultimately a decision to move forward. She trusts that releasing what is no longer serving her creates room for opportunities that better reflect her values and purpose. She understands that growth rarely happens inside comfort zone. It happens when old limitations are removed and new possibilities are allowed to emerge. The woman who learns to let go discovers that life becomes lighter, clearer, and more meaningful. The energy once spent carrying unnecessary burdens becomes available for building a future aligned with her highest potential. Every release becomes an invitation for transformation. Every ending becomes space for a new beginning. Every act of letting go becomes an act of growth. One of the greatest challenges a woman faces is resisting the temptation to define herself through the opinions of others. From an early age, society begins assigning labels. Some people tell her who she should be. Others tell her what success should look like. Some try to define her value based on appearance, status, achievements, or approval. Over time, many women begin measuring themselves through the expectations of those around them. The problem with living this way is simple. When your identity depends on the opinions of others, your confidence becomes fragile. Every compliment elevates you. Every criticism weakens you. Every rejection makes you question your worth. Your sense of self becomes vulnerable to forces outside your control. A truly strong woman understands a different truth. She understands that identity is not something given by other people. It is something built from within. It comes from knowing your values, understanding your purpose, and remaining faithful to who you are, regardless of external opinions. Research in social psychology has shown that people naturally seek acceptance and belonging. This desire is part of human nature. The challenge arises when belonging becomes more important than authenticity. When people begin changing themselves to gain approval, they slowly lose connection with their true identity. Many women spend years attempting to become what others expect them to be. They alter their dreams to fit someone else's vision. They silence their opinions to avoid criticism. They minimize their strengths to make others comfortable. They suppress parts of themselves in exchange for temporary acceptance. The cost of this exchange is often greater than they realize. Every time a woman abandons her authentic self to meet external expectations, she moves further away from the person she was created to become. The approval may feel rewarding in the moment, but it rarely creates lasting fulfillment. A woman who knows who she is moves differently through life. She does not require constant validation because her confidence comes from a deeper source. She understands her strengths without becoming arrogant. She recognizes her weaknesses without becoming discouraged. She accepts both qualities as part of her journey. This self-awareness creates remarkable stability. Criticism no longer destroys her confidence because she does not allow others to define her value. Praise no longer controls her because she understands that her worth existed before anyone acknowledged it. She remains grounded whether people celebrate her or misunderstand her. One of the clearest signs of maturity is the ability to remain true to your principles when external pressure encourages compromise. Every woman will face moments when conformity appears easier than authenticity. There will be situations where speaking honestly feels uncomfortable. There will be circumstances where staying true to personal values comes with a cost. Strong women understand that identity is strengthened every time integrity is chosen over approval. Each decision to remain authentic reinforces confidence. Each decision to honor personal values builds self-respect. Each decision to reject unhealthy expectations deepens personal freedom. The world constantly changes its standards. Trends change. Opinions change. Expectations change. What is celebrated today may be criticized tomorrow. A woman who builds her identity upon these shifting foundations will constantly feel uncertain. A woman who builds her identity upon character, purpose, and values develops something far more enduring. This does not mean she ignores feedback. Wise women listen carefully and remain open to growth. They understand that learning is essential, but they also recognize the difference between constructive guidance and external pressure. They learn from others without surrendering ownership of who they are. There is extraordinary power in knowing yourself. It creates confidence without arrogance. It creates humility without insecurity. It creates resilience without hardness. A woman who understands her identity is no longer controlled by approval, rejection, comparison, or criticism. She moves forward with clarity because her worth is rooted in something stronger than public opinion. She understands that her identity belongs to her, and no outside voice has the authority to define it. Freedom is one of the most desired experiences in life, yet many people spend years unknowingly surrendering it. They become attached to relationships that no longer serve them, expectations they never chose, and emotional burdens they were never meant to carry. They convince themselves that holding on is strength, while letting go is weakness. But the most powerful women eventually discover a truth that changes everything. Graceful detachment is not the loss of freedom. It is the path to it. Many people imagine freedom as the ability to do whatever they want whenever they want. True freedom is much deeper than that. It is freedom from the need for constant approval, freedom from unhealthy attachments, freedom from the opinions of people who do not understand your journey, freedom from emotional chains that prevent growth and peace. A woman who learns graceful detachment begins to understand that not everything deserves permanent access to her energy. She recognizes that every attachment carries a cost. Some attachments inspire growth, confidence, and purpose. Others create anxiety, insecurity, and limitation. Wisdom comes from learning the difference. Research in human behavior consistently shows that emotional attachment can strongly influence decision-making. People often remain connected to situations that no longer benefit them simply because they have invested time, effort, or emotion. The longer the investment, the harder it becomes to leave. Yet remaining attached to something unhealthy rarely creates peace. More often, it creates exhaustion. The strongest women understand that freedom requires honesty. They are willing to ask difficult questions. Is this relationship helping me become the person I want to be? Is this belief serving my future? Is this habit contributing to my growth? Is this attachment aligned with my values? Honest answers often reveal where change is needed. Graceful detachment begins when a woman stops trying to control things beyond her influence. She stops trying to force people to understand her. She stops trying to earn love that should be freely given. She stops trying to carry responsibilities that belong to others. Instead of fighting reality, she accepts it and redirects her energy toward what she can control. This acceptance is not passive. It is powerful. It takes courage to release what feels familiar. It takes courage to stop chasing outcomes that remain beyond your control. It takes courage to trust that letting go creates space for something better. Yet every act of graceful detachment strengthens personal freedom. One of the greatest traps in life is emotional dependency. When happiness depends entirely on another person's behavior, freedom disappears. When self-worth depends on external validation, freedom disappears. When peace depends on circumstances always being perfect, freedom disappears. A woman committed to personal growth understands that lasting freedom must come from within. This inner freedom changes the way she experiences life. Rejection no longer destroys her confidence because she understands her value. Criticism no longer controls her decisions because she trusts her principles. Disappointment no longer defines her future because she believes in her ability to grow beyond setbacks. There is remarkable strength in walking away without resentment. Many people remain emotionally connected to painful experiences long after they physically leave them. They replay old conversations, relive old disappointments, and carry old wounds into new chapters. Graceful detachment requires something different. It requires releasing not only the situation, but also the emotional grip it maintains over the future. The woman who masters this skill becomes increasingly free. Free to pursue her purpose, free to embrace new opportunities, free to build healthier relationships, free to create a life aligned with her values rather than her fears. She no longer wastes energy attempting to control every outcome. She focuses on becoming the person capable of thriving in any circumstance. Graceful detachment is not about caring less. It is about caring wisely. It is about recognizing that peace, growth, and freedom often begin the moment you stop holding on to what is preventing you from moving forward. The woman who learns this lesson discovers that freedom is not found in possessing more. It is found in releasing what no longer belongs in her life.